Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to get to speak here this morning. So we're just looking at the benefits of exercise and reducing the cancer reoccurrence. So basically just to look at some of what the research says first. As Helen pointed out, there's numerous studies that show that the positive benefits to promoting exercise during and after treatment. Moderate activity is considered one of the best forms of it. Vigorous exercise as yet, they're unsure if that provides too much of a benefit. So when we look at the positive benefits of exercise in terms of preservation of health and our improvements to the health, we can see that if we just break it down into, I suppose, a couple of the physical sides of it here, you've got the muscle mass, strength and power. I suppose some people look at this and think, well, do I have to be part of a gym to understand any of this stuff here? What we do in the centre is we look at it in terms of what you do day to day, the activities, the hobbies you're interested in, and look at them in terms of what strength, what power, what physical capacities you need for them, okay, and take it back to a more personal level with that. Without exercise, we can't, it's a use it or lose it principle. So if you don't exercise, you're not going to maintain the same level of fitness. So that'll affect your endurance and your strength and your power. That could be something as simple as being able to climb your stairs at home, descend the stairs, carry objects around the house. So you can break it down to a level that feels, that can be very personalised and simple to understand. In terms of cardiorespiratory fitness, you'll know yourself if you've been, inactive for a period of time. You get out for a walk, 10-15 minutes might be perfect, might be more than you need. You may have done 30 minutes in the past and thought, well, that's what I'm going to jump back into, and that just becomes a challenge too far, too soon. So in terms of maintaining cardio fitness, it's very important that regular exercise becomes a part of that. The ability to function physically. So as I said there, when I started doing the classes in Cancer Care West, we had to look at the people who are coming into them, see, well, what is it they do? What are their hobbies? What are their day-to-day activities? And some of the things that came up was as simple as putting the shopping in the boot of the car, carrying it into the house, carrying it up the stairs, moving boxes, various things that happen different times of the year, as well, like, say, coming up now, taking down Christmas decorations and putting them on the ceiling, things as simple as that. So we're looking at what's your ability like to function with that, and how much of that can you do yourself, how much of that do you need assistance with, or how do you modify what you do so that you can do it. Their physical activity levels as well. So regular exercise helps you to maintain that regular physical activity. If you don't exercise, you'll often become lethargic and find it's tiring to do the day-to-day activities. If we have a small level of activity regularly, it's easier to maintain that and find it's less of an issue, or even you realise you're doing it without thinking. Your immune function as well is improved with exercise. So it's your ability to respond to infections as you might come upon them. Coughs and colds, as simple as that. And body image, self-esteem and mood. It's long been proven that exercise improves people's mood. So you only have to take, if you have the chance here at lunchtime, take 5 minutes around the car park and you might feel fresher and brighter coming back in after lunch. And there's your evidence for that. Sorry. Okay, sorry, I'm going to skip to, here. So in terms of the reductions, what exercise has the benefit of is reducing the symptoms and side effects reported with nausea, fatigue and pain. In the centre we have a lot of people who may come into us for the classes while they're undergoing treatment. And they might be the most vocal to me in expressing that they're feeling fatigue and pain and so on. And it's a case of working at your level, but exercise helps to reduce these. So some people travel to Galway for their treatment and they stay in Isheven in the hospital. They may come for some of the classes. And if they're coming back week to week, a lot of them reported that, they felt tired after the exercise, but it felt better as the day went on, and the following day things felt better again. So they start to see that exercise is having its effect straight away. As soon as you start, it has a benefit effect. The intensity of the symptoms reported as well. The more physically active you are, the stronger your body is, so easier it is to deal with negative symptoms. The duration of hospitalisation as well. Obviously, the fitter you are, the less time you may need in hospital care. So it can help reduce your time in that. Psychological and emotional stress as well. And we all know, if you spend any bit of time exercising, you go out and walk the prom in a stiff breeze, it's good for the mind, it's good for the body. And that can help you to reduce your stresses as well. So while the task might be to physically walk, it has an effect on the mind. And depression and anxiety. Okay, it's long been proven that exercise has an effect on depression and helps to reduce the effects of it. How to exercise. I suppose when people come in, if you've had a history of exercising, you may have been a gym participant in the past or had a hobby or sport you were involved in, you might want to just jump back into it and take it up where you left off and try and eliminate that period of your life. The common mistakes that I find people do, and Helen pointed to it earlier, is to try to return to what they did last and just take it up from there, okay? And what we often see with that is people end up overtraining, they end up demoralised with what they do, they feel unfit, they just feel that they weren't able to do what they did previously, and then they kind of give up on it. So it's much more important to take a more sensible approach to that, and we'll discuss that in a few minutes. Why exercise? I suppose cause of cancer are multifactorial, and with lack of physical activity, it's been considered to be one of the risk factors, and that's why it's so important that people take up an exercise at any level that they feel is suitable. Participating in exercise as well has been associated with the benefits during and following treatment in terms of improving psychosocial and physical wellness, and as well as dealing with the treatment regimes and reducing the impact of symptoms. Sorry, now there. Okay. So in terms of general guidelines, I suppose week to week when somebody new joins the classes, the first thing they ask me is write them a Bible of exercise, or write them a list that they can go home and follow. And it's, as pointed out already, it's different for everybody. As a general guideline, the American College of Sports Medicine recommends the following guidelines: so that the frequency would be 3 to 5 times a week, the intensity that would be moderate, 20 minutes plus, if possible, and that the type of exercise would be aerobic, resistance, or a combination of both. So if we were to look at it again and say like 3 to 5 times a week, what I suggest to most people is if you have the opportunity to train, say Monday to Friday, okay, why not do Monday to Friday and enjoy your weekends? The intensity of exercise, I think, is something that everybody will grade differently. So what I use is a talk test for people. If you invite a friend to go and walk the prom and you can't talk because the two of you are out of breath, you're working at a level that isn't moderate. So and there's very little enjoyment in that, and you might come home and think, if that was at a lot less level, I would have enjoyed it more, and I would have been able to have a chat. What's that going to do for the stress effect of it as well? So in terms of the intensity, to grade a moderate intensity, you should be able to talk, you should feel warm, and maybe you'll start to hear your breathing as well. So you can use those 3 indicators to grade your level. So if you have, say, a regular walking route in your home and happens to have a couple of hills in it, you might find that the pace of your walking decreases as you're going up a hill, so that you could still maintain a chat. And it's important to keep re-evaluating how it feels, rather than just think, well, this is what was written on a piece of paper and I must follow it, because that's usually what will lead to you giving it up in the end if you don't enjoy it. The time of 20 minutes, I'm not a fan with any exercise of putting a time on it, or if we're lifting something that it must be done 10 times or 12 times or whatever. People do it to the level that they're comfortable with and they're fit for. So I use whether it's easy, moderate, or hard, okay? If it's easy, you know you can lift it more, okay, or you can perform it more. If the exercise is hard, well, you've got to question why you're doing it to a level that's you're not enjoying, okay? None of us like too much pain. It's just pain. The old saying was no pain, no gain. We've got to throw that out the window when we look at exercise from now on. If it's at a moderate level, you know you're going to receive a benefit from it, and you're going to be able to return to it again and do it time and time again, okay? And in terms of the type of exercise, walking, I suppose, is what's commonly recommended, and I suppose it's so accessible for people. It's easy to do, it's cheap, it's free, okay? It can be social. There's so many settings we can walk in. A lot of people shy away from doing resistance exercises because they think it involves maybe popping down into the gym down here and, you know, hammering weights off the floor and trying to lift them. It's not about that. It's about being able to push, pull, lift, move things around. What we do in the classes, I keep a very simple format to it. So when people walk in, we have a couple of chairs out, we have a couple of mats, and some very, very light weights. And everything we do would replicate what they might be able to do at home. Because I think it's important that if you're coming once a week for an exercise class, that you don't just decide, well, that's the only day I'll exercise. You'd be able to take it home and adapt it to your setting. Some of you might be familiar with kettlebells if you're into fitness training or anything like that. There are these heavy weights that look like a kettle without a spout. We have a kettle boils workout that I give to people. So at home, when you're boiling the kettle, you take a couple of the exercises and you do them then. So you can adapt it into your day rather than think, I have to be togged out and I have to do it for the next half an hour uninterrupted. You can fit it in as time suits. Now, in terms of can regular exercise reduce the risk of cancer coming back? A lot of the studies have shown that the benefits of exercising improve the survival rate, okay? But on the other side of it as well, the other effects that happen to us throughout life, high blood pressure, heart health, all of these are affected by our ability to exercise. So the more we exercise, the less the risk of all other issues as well. Okay, so in terms of like blood vessel disease, heart disease, diabetes, osteoporosis, a lot of times when people get sick, they decide that's it for me in terms of exercise, and they don't do anything that's weight bearing. Okay, and especially for women, you have I suppose the increased risk of osteoporosis. So it's important that you're exercising weight bearing exercise, and any weight bearing exercise obviously involves you moving on your feet. Okay, so that's the important way to look at it like that. Now, in terms of what we do in the classes in Cancer Quest, as I mentioned before, it's a 90-minute class, which some people think, geez, that's a football match, okay? And if you've never exercised before, you don't maybe want to play a game of soccer. It's a 90-minute class, but we break it up. So we start off with a bit of gentle mobility. When people are coming into the room, we basically we're having a chat about what they did last week, and that's almost setting them up for what's going to happen for their session that day. While we do it collectively, people have their own levels that they work within, and they're comfortable and familiar with working within that level. It offers us a setting then for monitored physical activity. So if we have somebody performing, say, a simple squat into the seat, or sitting into the seat and standing again, because we're doing it in an environment like that with small groups, people are chatting, it's what you do day to day at home, but I'm able to look at that exercise and see, are you performing it in a safe manner? Is it going to be more likely that that could lead to a slip, trip or a fall if you did it at home yourself? And reduce these risks so that you become empowered to do these exercises without guidance if you want at home. Okay, it's a positive atmosphere as well for the promotion of exercise. I can honestly say that it's probably the most enjoyable 3 hours I spend each week is teaching these classes, because the energy that comes into the room is what I can work with. If people come into the room and they don't talk, it's very hard to discover how we're going to go about a session. And the feedback that comes back from people and what they bounce off each other as well, it's amazing what comes out of that room. We've often been told to stay quiet because we make so much chat in there and enjoy it, but it's an important part of it. It forms the backbone for many people to get back into other hobbies or activities they've had, and I'll give you a couple of examples of that in a while. But it also helps people realise their limitations. It's been a regular thing where people might start training with me, they come into those classes, and as Helen mentioned already, they're trying to do 101 things, and they realise that maybe I don't need to do 101 things, I need to do 1 or 2 things concentrated, and gradually phase things in and phase other things out. As things become the priority, deal with them, and if not, let them be in the background and bring them to the surface when you need to. Sometimes, the emphasis might be on trying to reduce weight and get back to the physical appearance of it. That all takes time, and if you try and rush it all into, making exercise intense from the beginning, it just leads to increased fatigue, less enjoyment in the activity you're taking part in. And I guess what a lot of the people that come to the class as well have realised is that it must be regular for them to, if they don't do it regularly, they realise the implications it has on them. Only during the week there, I had a couple of clients who mentioned they were doing a couple of trips to Dublin and missed the class over a week or two, and they just realise how stiff and sore they become, or how less mobile they become just by missing a class or two. And exercise, we have a response to exercise. If we all went out today and walked 5 miles, we'll probably feel fine for a while of it, okay? Tomorrow we'll probably feel we have a great boost in our energy and our mood, and then we'll start to feel tired and the negatives start to kick in. If we did a little bit today and a little bit tomorrow and did that gradually over the week, the effects of that last longer than if we try to put in a mammoth event today and don't do anything until next Saturday, because it just starts to become a negative from that. So a little and often is more important than trying to maximise your time and think, I have an hour here, I must pack it all in and then leave it till next week. Just to give you some of those examples, I suppose when I was doing this, I've been thinking over the 3 years of people that have done certain things, and we're not looking for superheroes or superstars in it, but I just have 4 clients here that I thought it was worth a mention of what they do. One client in particular, when she arrived into the classes, had 2 walking sticks and needed a very supportive chair, needed to be guided to her chair, needed help to take off her jacket and everything like that. She comes into these classes on a regular basis now, forgets her walking stick, she's down to 1, and she often has to come back into the room and pick it up. And it's a case that, it was a crutch at the start. Now she knows she can work without it. She regularly gets the bus now and does her shopping in town. She's found ways of making physical activity part of her day rather than thinking, I need another half an hour or an hour. So now she'll walk to the bus, do the shopping at the next shop over, get the bus back and walk that extra 15 minutes. So there's a 30 minutes exercise in. A second client, as Helen mentioned earlier, we have a client there that's 83. Her fear was of falling in the house, and what does she do if she's on her own? So we looked at that whole concept of that. What happens if you end up on the ground? How do you get back up off the ground? And we built that into an exercise workout for everybody to do, so that if you ended up on the ground, what's the process of getting back up, and put it into exercise format, so it's not, you don't fear it anymore. She regularly comes into the class, rolls out her mat, lies down on the floor, and she's down on the floor before most people are. So it's, it's amazing what people, when they take it on board, see a practical approach to it, the fear goes out of it, and the ability to do it becomes so much more accessible to them. Actually, she wasn't long in the class when she had the mat out, and there was a girl in the class who was probably in her maybe early 30s, and she was sitting or lying opposite her, and she just said to me afterwards, said, in 6 weeks I want to be able to do what she does. So if you're aspiring to an 83-year-old, it's good for her, isn't it? Again, we've another client. I mentioned earlier about people getting back to hobbies that they used to do. I have a client who used to play golf, and with her treatment, she wasn't able to play the golf. I got out of the social circle of it as well, and just found that it was maybe didn't want to be associated with people because of the sympathy she might be getting and so on. But got back into exercise, developed a bit of mobility, and realised that if she kept up these exercises, these are going to help her with her golf swing and less fatigue when she plays golf and so on. She now golfs twice a week, and won a competition where she won a bike. So now she's actually cycling 3 or 4 mornings a week into town for a coffee. It's little simple things like that make the difference to people. So she's opened up a whole new social circle of her coffee mornings now. I suppose maybe now she values the croissant. She can have it with a little less guilt. And again, final client that I just want to mention, range of motion was a massive inhibitor for her. The reason she didn't want to do the exercise in the first place, she just felt she couldn't move, she was stiff, she was sore from her treatment. And just by investigating, we looked at what was a challenge that she might like to take on, and she mentioned to me that she wanted to learn to swim. So by targeting exercises that got her to work on, say, her range of motion for swimming, looking at very, very simple things that we do in a classroom or on the ground here, rather than in a swimming pool. And when she had that mastered, then she felt, I have enough skills here to move my arms above my head that I could maybe get some swimming lessons. And she went and learned to swim. She did 10 weeks of swimming lessons and can swim lengths now of her own accord. So it's little miracles, if you want to call it like that, but it's people that are putting in the work little and often, and they're determined with what they're doing. It doesn't have to be set out like an athlete's program for you. So if you haven't exercised and you're looking at where do I start, here is just a couple of things that I feel you need to look at in terms of setting out a program or plan for yourself. You need to choose a goal, okay, and it doesn't need to be the Dublin City Marathon or any kind of an event that has a date on it. It can be something as simple as you want to walk to town, or you want to walk to the bus, and then you can set a goal that, so long as it's applicable to you, that's the important part of it, okay. Make sure it excites you as well. Obviously, if I was to give people a goal this morning and it doesn't interest you, you're not going to achieve it, or tie your shoes or put on your jacket and go out and have a go at it. The most important thing is to get medical clearance, okay. Some activities you might want to get involved in, you may need to be medically cleared for them, just so that you're working safely as well, and anybody that's going to be giving you professional advice knows the boundaries that you have to be met with, okay. And this is what I use at the end here for all training that I do with people, is to do the exercise, review the exercise, analyse it, and then redo it, okay. So if you're doing a task, say as simple as kneeling down onto one knee, okay, can you do the exercise? If you can't, let's review it and see how you might be able to do it better, and then go back with a revised plan to be able to do it, so you can move forward in steps that are suitable for you. I coach a lot of athletes in competition, and this is a model that I use here for them in terms of training. A lot of times people just look at the physical side of their exercise and think it's all about the doing, it's all about being physically active or being physically strong. But there's 4 components to it. You have the mental approach. If you're not mentally ready for it, it's very hard to do the physical side of the task. And even during the physical task, you have to be mentally ready to adjust to what it throws at you. Okay. Technical side of it might be something as simple as dressing for the weather or having the appropriate footwear, reducing your risks of injuries through maybe slips, trips or falls. And the tactical side, that's the side of our brain where maybe we decide what's the best approach for me to take to this, okay? What's going to give me the most success with the least effort? That's an important part of it. And so if we look at exercises, that like your physical side of exercise, maybe 25% of it. The other parts play a big role in you having success with it. In terms of where to start, fitness intensity, type and time. Okay, I mentioned earlier about the 3 to 5 times a week. The World Health Organization recommends 150 minutes of aerobic activity a week. So if you're to look at that, that's 30 minutes a day, Monday to Friday. Okay, and that's only as a base guideline. Again, as I mentioned about the intensity, if you can't talk, what pace should you walk? Okay, so set the target so that you can enjoy what you do. The type of exercise, most people recommend, I suppose, walking as a kind of a basic form of it. I also have a class that runs on a Friday for people who've had cancer. They come to a spinning class with me. We set up the bikes in a circle. The whole reason for it is non-impact, bit of social side of it, a little bit of resistance that they can tolerate, and everybody's bike is different, so nobody can look at you and think she's not pushing hard enough, he's going too hard. Everybody's working at a level that suits them. So the type of exercise, so long as it's suitable for you, it's safe for you, that's the important thing to consider in it. And then again, you're realistic in what your goals are. So if you're setting a goal for yourself today, I want to get back exercising, be realistic in how you approach that, okay? Maybe write it down on paper and then you might need to look at how you revise it. Before you look at that then again, you have a decisional balance. So you've got to look at your goal and think, what are the pros and cons to it, okay? Is this going to put me under more stress because I've set myself a goal and I'm a determined person? Or is it going to make me happier as I go about it, okay? Is it going to lead to more health enhancement for me? And then the final part of it is step out and make it happen, okay? We can all sit and talk and do. It's important to get out there and tie the shoelaces and make it happen if it's going to be. Okay, I just have some references on the end of it there, and if anybody has any questions that they don't want to ask today or they feel they want to ask me in the future at any stage, feel free to take down my email address and throw it my way and I'll respond to you then. Okay.